Thank you for your time, for speaking with us. Before we get into the real meat and potatoes here, Brian, I wanted to learn more about your background. What's led you to the CFO position within Framingham?
Sure. Well, I mean, my background, Brennan, in municipal government started in 2008 in Millbury, where I was the finance director slash IT director for 6 years. After that, the opportunity in Nantucket arose in late 2013, and I started in 2014. Really was a move. It's very similar to Millbury in terms of they were looking for some more consistency in the finance department, some more reliability. They had some audit issues that they needed to resolve, and just generally wanted to have somebody that had some experience in making some changes and bringing some reliability and trust, not only within the department, but to the public as well. And ultimately moved to Nantucket for 12 years. And I saw the opportunity to come and work for the city of Framingham as the CFO. It looked like a lot of some of the similarities of what I had been able to accomplish in the two communities prior to this, in terms of bringing some consistency, not only internally, but externally to the public, in a different way to look at things and hopefully use some of the experience in budgeting that I had gained over the course of the last 18 years in service to both Millbury and Nantucket.
You may have a future as a journalist as well, because that was going to be the next question to see if there were any similarities and differences with your time in Nantucket and other municipal roles that you saw with this job in Framingham. Could you dive into some of those specifics that you mentioned in terms of similarities and maybe some of the differences with Framingham as well as
Sure.
your past?
Sure. So that's a great question. So I think most municipalities are similar in from a accounting and finance structure in the way that they're set up. They're governed by the Department of Revenue. I think where a lot of it gets a little bit different is Nantucket is a town, so it has an open town meeting. And Framingham is now a city with a city council. So the structure, I think, was something that was also intriguing to me as well. And I looked at it. Framingham's also a little bit bigger budget. It's about just under two times the size of Nantucket. So the opportunity to be involved on a larger scale and work to bring some of the change that I had done in Nantucket, possibly increase bond ratings, more reliable, timely financial statements and budgeting practices, I think was really appealing to me for the opportunity to come and provide that and do that for the city.
Now, as we were sit here now on Tuesday the 5th, you've officially had this role for just about 2 weeks at this point, if I'm not mistaken. And you're
Right.
being thrown right into it, right in the middle of budget season in Framingham. Overall, after Mayor Sisitsky submitted his budget Thursday night, what are your overall thoughts of the budget situation that Framingham currently faces?
I think that the situation that the city faces is not dissimilar to the situation that many communities across the Commonwealth are facing right now with, as I noted in the memo, Proposition 2.5 is not keeping up with the expenses. That expenses are rising at a faster pace than the revenue that cities are able or towns are able to generate across the Commonwealth. So I think um, the budget situation in the city of Framingham, I think, is not very dissimilar, as I said, to any of the communities across the Commonwealth right now. I think they're all facing those challenges collectively.
Right. And the path forward, at least for the 2027 fiscal year, at least in the short term, I understand
Mhm.
it's a year long, but
Sure.
when you're talking just a year by year sort of basis, the path forward within Framingham looks to be a combination of raises to the tax levy rate from 2.5 to 4.5%, utilizing some of that excess capacity, reductions to parts of the budget requests. So school committee,
Sure.
I believe, there are some, I mean, across multiple other departments
Mhm.
within the municipal government, there are reductions to their requested budgets that they had. And then the use of the roughly $21 million in free cash that the city has on hand to make sure that the budget is balanced.
Correct.
Do you foresee any sort of long-term fallout or ramifications, consequences, whether positive or negative, through all of those decisions? I guess we could go one by one, start with the tax levy raise. Obviously, no one wants to hear that their taxes are being raised, but long-term, with the use of those strategies, do you foresee any sort of fallout from them?
Um, I think if we put forth a plan that makes sense, then I think that long term it will build the financial stability that every community wants. I think the memo that I issued, I think I was very clear that I think that the continued reliance on free cash will create more long-term issues that we will have to deal with, which is why in that memo I also recommended and said we will start to begin the process of a long-term financial forecast, because I think that it's very important when we're doing all of this that we have that to help guide us in making sure we create budgets that are fiscally sustainable, but also predictable for the residents of the community. So um, I think long term, getting to using 4.5% this year is a strategy that the mayor has decided to deploy to try to protect the core services that the city has come to expect in delivering to its residents, both on the municipal and the school side. I think the one area that I have been clear, like I said in the memo, excuse me, and in discussions, is that I think the long-term reliance on continued utilization of free cash for annual operating expenses is something that I would hope over a period of time we would develop a plan to get out of the budget so that we can have the more predictable, sustainable growth that will deliver those services.
Tell me about that idea for a financial forecast, Brian. Was that something that you had used, whether it was on Nantucket or elsewhere, and what might that process look like?
Sure, it's a great question, and we used it in Nantucket. Usually, we did between a 3 to 5 year forecast. It would forecast where we thought revenues were going to go based on usually using a 5 year look back period. And then we would work with the departments to get what they saw as long range needs for their departments. And we would go through this every budget cycle. And we would get expected or anticipated changes over the next 3 to 5 years so that we had that. And we would build those into an internal document so that we would be able to see and try to develop fiscally responsible and sustainable budgets. One of the things that we also did was in Nantucket we had a strategic plan, which I think is also ultimately a long-term goal of mine to have, because when you tie that to a financial forecast, it creates the predictability for people and understanding what the core services are for the city and how we're going to deliver those on an ongoing basis.
Are there any other long-term goals or strategies that you'd be looking to enact within Framingham?
I think that at this point, I would say that being here only 2 weeks, I think I'm still kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of
Fair
how the
enough.
city
Yeah.
as a whole operates, and I think I probably would comment more on that as I've gotten through a little bit more of it.
Sure. Yeah, something to follow up on potentially
Yeah.
for sure. Um, In general, though, one question I did want to ask, the term economic development is something that's thrown around a lot within the municipal government. You cover budget matters long enough, you hear both officials and residents alike bringing that up. What does economic development mean to you? What are the key tenets of economic development in your mind?
Well, for me, we really look in the finance department. We look at economic development from the new growth creation and the additive to the tax base that it is, and it has the potential of helping offset tax rates when you have more new growth and you're adding assessed value into the city. So that's kind of where I look at it. I long range, I think new growth and or economic development really is planning and planning department and associated departments and what that looks like long range. But for me in the finance department, any new growth has the potential to help generate more income and more revenue into the city, which is always a good thing.
Right. For sure. For sure. Now, again, not to put you on the spot for the long-term goals as you're still trying to get into the swing of things, but even just in sort of a general sense, are there any sort of strategies that you'd hope to enact in regards to community engagement? Because transparency and engagement with residents is another topic that often gets discussed when talking about these municipal matters. Would you like to establish anything to ensure that residents on a consistent sort of basis make sure that they have their voices heard when talking about municipal budget matters and municipal finance matters?
I mean, I think I've always had an open door policy and an open phone policy or even email. I've always encouraged at many of the meetings when I was in Nantucket, be it finance committee or select board, my door was always open and people would always come in and sit and ask questions. And I've always encouraged that because I think an engaged citizenry, it makes the whole process better and more robust and gives you a deeper understanding of what the citizens are looking for in those services that we deliver. So I'm always my door's always open for citizens to call, email, I'm not in a meeting, they're more than welcome to knock on my door. And if I have 5 minutes of time, I'm happy to sit and talk to them about it.